All right, good afternoon, and thank you for joining another episode of Mega Insider Pro. Today, our topic is building value through a strong marketing plan. And with me today, I have, according to the Wall Street Journal, the #1 producing real estate agent in the entire state of California, Daniel Del Real. Daniel, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be on the show.
Can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, your practice, and I'd like you to be on the map in case anyone has clients moving to Modesto or surrounding areas. I've worked with Daniel for about 2 years now, and working with about 500 top producing agents around the country. This guy is definitely one of the best in the business. Daniel, can you talk for a few seconds about your practice, what makes you unique, and why you may be able to help out folks that are moving to your part of the world?
Sure. So right an hour and a half south of Sacramento. I operated a team here with a few buyers agents, and I'm primarily a listing guy. We do about 300 transactions a year, which is hovering around $80 to $90 million a year. You know, our biggest thing is marketing. You know, that's our biggest pitch. Is we knew that we couldn't, as a team, compete against big brokerages that face. But what we could do is change the category of how we market real estate, and that's what we've done over the last 10 years, and it's been, gaining some momentum. So, been in the business for 15 years now, and really been doing a lot of digital marketing for the last 10. In 2010, the National Association of Realtors gave me the 30 Under 30 award, which was because of the digital marketing we were doing then. We were doing videography back in 2009 and 2010. So fast forward to now, technology has changed, and now people have adapted a lot of social media into their lifestyle. So I was positioned perfectly to take advantage of it. And that's what we've been doing.
What would be a good phone number, Daniel, that somebody could give you a call at if they did indeed have a client moving to Modesto?
Reach me directly at my cell phone, 209-204-0610.
All right, perfect. And on to our first topic of conversation. What are some of the key elements of your marketing strategy?
Well, what we want to do is create an experience for people, right? And, when you're dealing with a traditional market, 80% of my business is still traditional, and a lot of it comes from my brand. People expect a certain level of marketing because I've been just doing it for so long. And what I decided to do, instead of being in real estate trying to figure out marketing, I just relabeled myself as a marketing firm that happens to be selling real estate. So that's been my biggest pitch. So when I'm competing against other agents on these expireds or FSBOs, or even traditionally, they're pitching themselves as an agent. I'm pitching myself as a marketing firm, and then I back it up with everything that I have, right? The videography, my in-house marketing manager, the drones, the websites, the Google Analytics, the tailored marketing, and all that. So that's really what sets us apart.
So what I'm hearing is it's about creating the experience for your client, and you're doing that by a little paradigm shift where, rather than a real estate agent with a really good marketing plan, you're actually positioning yourself in a unique fashion where you're a marketing firm and your medium happens to be real estate. Am I gathering that correctly?
Correct, yeah, and you deal with the traditional real estate market where people, and I'm talking to agents here, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. And let's be real, honestly, an agent will typically spend anywhere from $100 to $500 at the max to market a home. Some of it is pictures, and the other thing is a sign in the yard and maybe some flyers, some open houses. So that's what the tradition has been in real estate. People were paying high commissions for us to protect them from liability, but really to also market the property. So a lot of the people, when we sit with them and go through our marketing plan, they usually sit back and say, "Man, you're a breath of fresh air." Like we're just used to not really getting a marketing approach or an actual full marketing plan. And then they get something a little different. So what we want to do is, whether we could sell a home faster than the next guy, we want to make sure they get an experience with us. What I mean by experience is their property is going to go through a journey, kind of like if you have any kids and you're taking, it's about that time, you're taking family pictures for the Christmas cards or the holiday cards. You have a chaotic day leading up to it, right? And it's, you're trying to figure out what to wear. Your kids aren't cooperating. I have 3 kids, ages 7, 5, and 3.
Yeah,
so half the time,
Oh, so I know where you're coming from.
You know what I mean? It's a meltdown. But then a week later, you get this picture from your photographer, and she captures it like, man, I didn't know my kids were that well behaved that day. It was absolutely a mess, right? You think the pictures are probably going to be horrible, and then you get back and you're like, oh, and you show it off to everybody. You send out the Christmas card. You talk, everybody comments about it. People share it on social media. You know, you want to show how you look in a perfect light, right, with your family, and regardless of how chaotic that day was behind that lens, they captured that. And that experience for you, you tend to brag about it. We do the same thing with real estate. So we go in and we want to capture that property like it's never been captured before in photo with HDR photography, videography, drone, aerial photos, and we build custom websites for it. So when you hand that over, it feels like that. It feels like when you get that picture for that Christmas card and it's perfect, and you're proud of it because you love your home or you love your family or you love your significant other. It's an experience that we walk them through. And when we're in front of somebody at a listing presentation, especially for sale by owner or an expired, they don't see the value in us, right? That's why they're for sale by owner. They think they could do it better than you, right? Or even traditionally, they don't have that. So when you're dealing with somebody that's expired, they probably just went through a bad experience. Maybe an agent that they didn't give them that experience, didn't communicate what the market is telling them, didn't have a marketing plan. So when you sit in front of them, it's hard for them not to see value, right? It's almost like taking an Amazon-like approach to real estate. When you bring that analogy up, their eyes usually spark up. You know, I simply sit in front of them and say, have you ever bought anything on Amazon? They say, yes, I have. Well, last time you went and shopping and say you were looking for this coffee cup, right? If you didn't buy it, this coffee cup will follow you around for weeks at a time until you're sick and tired and you just buy it so you don't see the ads anymore on your social media site, your Google site, whatever it is. We do the same thing for real estate. We're able to pinpoint and target the buyers that we want in the locations that we want. So in tradition, where an agent is doing real estate into marketing, we're a marketing firm. So we're doing marketing. We happen to be selling real estate. And we know how to bring our product to the seller, the buyer. So instead of bringing the buyers to the home, which we still do and all the agents are going to pitch, we bring the house to the buyer.
Okay.
And that usually gives them that example and that experience. So they're like, okay, that is completely unique. So when you're dealing with expireds and FSBOs, when you guys are setting us up on these appointments, we have to bring something to the table to be able to close on that. If we sit there like every other agent, they're going to be like, well, I just got done with an expired. I just got done, I wanted to do a FSBO because I don't see the value of paying you 6% commission, right? And whenever I do the expired, even the FSBOs, we walk away with a full 3% side, right? Because they see the value and they want that experience, right? So as you arm yourself with these tools, you have to be able to present them in front of the client. And at the same time, you guys are our partners. You guys are giving us the at-bats. You have to be able to pitch us.
Right.
So you guys have to know what we're doing.
So that already kind of answers our second question of how your marketing strategy differentiates yourself from your competition. What I heard is I think the biggest takeaways, Daniel, were you're creating an experience that's a world apart what they're used to, whether it's the expired listing who just got done with the real estate agent with the same old cookie cutter approach that most real estate agents use. I think you used a number up to around $500 a listing is what most agents are spending. You're able to differentiate yourself there, or the for sale by owner, whatever their plan is to try to market the house, you're obviously going to be head and shoulders there. And the shift that you're making is you're not necessarily bringing the buyer to the house, but you're actually bringing the house to the buyer and positioning yourself in that light. That's what's really setting you worlds apart from the vast majority of other agents who are going to be calling on those folks.
Correct, and you have to connect it to something they know. That's why you always saying the Amazon-like approach, because they understand how Amazon looks, and everybody has been targeted by their ads, right? So that links them that gets them to understand what you're talking about.
So you're right. Your marketing strategy is obviously made up of multiple different components. I heard things like drone photography, virtual tours, social media campaigns. I'm sure there's a variety of things that you utilize to bring the home to the buyer. How do you go about measuring the impact of the various components of your marketing strategy?
So by providing all this stuff, and now sit in front of the client as they say that, it's irrelevant what I do. if I can't show them? So if I have a brand spanking new Ferrari in the garage, right? What's the point if I don't drive it, right? And I'm not driving traffic to it. So if there's a place where anybody can link a website, maybe you could send them to my website and people could kind of poke around to see what I'm doing, or simply just Google my name. Just Google my name, you'll find a bunch of stuff, some of my listings, my Facebook page and all that stuff. You'll see what I'm talking about. But so every property that we have has a custom website, right? And the reason why we do that is because we want to be able to pinpoint and market. So for instance, we sold the property on 760albursroad.com, 760 Albers, ALBERSRD.com. If you go to that website, you'll see how we bring that ranch to that client, right? So we build that website because we understand, and we let the client know we understand that their $750,000 ranchette is gonna attract a different buyer than a $250,000 home in city, right? So whenever we know that, then I know that our buyer for that house is going to generate a certain amount of income, is going to be in a certain industry, or is maybe going to come from an hour and a half away, and they see that $750 price tag with that land, it's going to be attractive to them. So we're through social media, Google, AdWords, and everything else out there that allows you to pinpoint the buyer. You could create an ad that targets buyers in a certain IP address of a certain location with a certain type of income, with a certain type of web activity. So if you take a population of 500,000 people, you're able to narrow it down to 2,000 to 3,000 people that are actually looking for real estate right now, right? Just like Amazon. And instead of going wide, you go deep on the marketing. Well, I can't do that if I don't actually build something for the client, right? And that's where the website comes in. So we explain that to them, right? So a lot of people will put it on their broker website or put it on Zillow. That's fine. You can advertise on Zillow, but if somebody is shopping from a town or two away and that's where your traffic is coming from, if they don't type in your hometown, they're not going to see it. Right? So that's traditionally what people do. Here, a lot of our buyers are coming from the Bay Area. There's a lot of money coming from the Bay Area. So we tend to find a way to bring the house to them. We do that by building custom websites. Then we create all the ads to target and funnel that to that website. And through Google Analytics, we're able to track how many hits to the website by IP address, how many return visitors, how much time are they spending on the website, what location are they coming from, and we provide that to the client every 2 weeks, right? So we say, hey, look, this has been our activity. Our activity's been, remember, this isn't expired or FSBO, they've had a bad experience, right? And maybe their home is overpriced and you take an overpriced listing. And it's not about what I think the home is worth or what the seller thinks the home is worth, but what the market is telling them it's worth and whether they want to listen to it or not. Get down for them in that way. So by looking at the Google Analytics, I'm able to sit down and have a conversation with them and say, hey, look, Joe, we've had 2 showings in the last, 2 weeks. Home is probably overpriced, right? We've had, say, a broker's open or an open house led to 10 people. And the gold really comes through the web traffic, saying, look, we've had 1,200 people because they think, well, my house isn't exposed enough. Not enough people have seen it. So that's why I haven't sold it. It's your fault. So then you show them that. You say, hey, look, there's been 1,200 people that have gone to the website and saw the videos and everything you put together. So the exposure is there. Now, these people are people that we are targeting that have real estate style activities. So they're buyers. These are how many people have came back to the website 2 times to see it, which shows value there that people are coming back and are interested, and how much time they've spent in the website and what locations. So at that point, you're showing them all the data. You're saying, look, we have 2 showings on the home in 14 days. We've had 1,200 visitors. We've had 1 open. All in all, we've had about 1,400 eyeballs on the property, and we have no offer. The market is not responding to our price law. Remember, it's not you telling them the home is not worth what it's worth, because sometimes it's FSBOs or expires are a little higher. You need to talk to them in a way so you shift the attention to the market. They can't be mad at, they can be mad at the market as much as you want. As long as they're not mad at you, you're doing your job.
Right.
Educating them. Conversations, and you show them the data, then the dialogue is a lot easier, and they cannot be upset at it. They're like, well, yeah, okay, I've got the exposure that I need. And usually clients will say, well, the market's not responding well. What do you suggest? How much of a reduction do you suggest? And they start having that conversation with you instead of us having it with them. Traditionally, what happens is after 2 weeks, nobody's showing the house. You're not getting any calls from brokers. You've had maybe 2 showings. They're not interested. And you're calling them and you said, You'll say, hey, we have 2 showings. They didn't like your property because of X, Y, Z. So now they don't even like you because you're telling them what the other buyers didn't like and they blame you for it. And then there's nothing else you could really tell them. Right? You're not really saying, well, they're thinking, well, how much exposure have I got? Have you done any marketing? Remember, they haven't created a website or pictures or video or any of that. So you basically say, well, you've had some likes on Zillow and Trulia, but that's about it. So no, look at you, say, well, what else are you doing? Now it's your fault. Not the market's fault. It's your fault because you're not getting the exposure that they want or they need. They're not getting that good experience. So now you as a broker, you're going to ask for that reduction in price and they're going to blame you for it. Does that make sense? So you have to really pitch it in a way and show them enough data, and you have to do your job so that way your job gets easier and you can lead your client to the sale faster by educating them. So I tell seller, every home is sellable. It's whether the market is willing to give you the price that you want. Every home has a price. You can keep doing reductions. Every home has a price, right? It's whether you're willing to take what the market is willing to give you. I'll get you the exposure. I'll set it up on a nice platter. I'll make it look beautiful, like that family portrait. But at the end of the day, the market doesn't care what I think. The market doesn't care what you think. The market is the market. It's whether you're willing to listen to it and whether you're willing to accept what it's going to give you at that point in time, right? So those are the conversations you have to make your presentation a lot easier, right? and the seller a lot easier.
So I think to boil it down to a real takeaway for our audience, Daniel, what it sounds like you're doing is you've got your data and your analytics and your metrics completely dialed in where you're able to make a numbers-based decision. And now when you're presenting information to your home seller, it's not an emotional decision. It's not about somebody didn't like the house. It's not about the agent's not doing the right job or whatever. It's about, here are the numbers. Here's what the numbers are telling us. Here's what the numbers are dictating, and here's what the market's doing. And now it's a completely data-driven, non-emotional, it's a logical decision that's going to lead them to where they really need to make the adjustment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
So look up exactly what I said, and even the Google Analytics snapshots that I talked about, the reports that I send my clients, I have it all online. It's not a secret, right? I do it on purpose because I want other sellers to know what we do differently. And your audience, if somebody's out there, an agent wants to see it, it's the delrealgroup.co. You go to that website, and then you'll be able to see step by step down to the Google Analytics sheets and the videography, the websites, and all that stuff that I'm talking about.
So it's thedelrealgroup.co.
.co.
And you've got these metrics right online. So my last question here was, what advice would you give to other top agents when it comes to improving their marketing strategy? And it sounds like the first piece of advice would be to get really dialed in with the data and the metrics and the analytics. And it sounds like that website is a starting point where people could start kind of seeing the blueprint. Do you have any additional advice? Because I would expect even top producing agents, there's not many of them out there that have as in-depth a strategy as you have when it comes to the data and analytics side of your marketing plan. What are some other pointers that you could give to folks to enhance their marketing strategy, make it that much more robust, or just to kind of take what you've talked about and boil it into a few action steps?
All right, so I would start looking at like GoDaddy and seeing if you could start creating these template websites. And I would recommend that every property that you list, you have a specific website for that where you capture everything. If you have somebody that's doing videography, contract them, hire them out. That's going to be an important thing. The more tools you have in your belt, then the better you're going to be. Now, and just assume everybody knows. Your partners, like you guys, I listen to all your calls. I send you feedback saying, hey, pitch my drone this way, pitch this way. Like, I have to care in order to be able to instruct you guys a bit more how to sell me. That way you guys know exactly what you're selling. So I would recommend all agents listen to the calls, and if there's any kind of constructive feedback, give it to you guys, because I've heard you guys change your dialogues by my feedback, and you guys will end up landing more appointments because of the things that we have. Now, if we have more tools for you guys to pitch, it's going to be a lot easier. For a lot of agents that are producing a lot right now, they're kind of unconsciously already doing this, but change the category. right? Don't, there's the average agent does, 6 to 12 deals a year, right? That's okay. You don't have to go and open up a brokerage and then become a big broker. You don't have to go out there and compete against the Keller Williams or the big brokers that have a 20, 30, 40% market share with 600 agents. But what you can do is create a team around you and just become a mega team, right? So change the category of how people compete against you. And that's one of the things that I've done through the marketing piece is I'm not going to compete against my brokerage firm, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to have all the agents, individual agents, compete against me, and I'm going to change the game on them. Okay? I spin it that I'm the marketing guy that happens to be selling real estate because that's completely different. It forces them to have the same conversations with those sellers of marketing real estate in my local market are starting to pop up with side businesses of Flying Jones because of our demand, because people are seeing that we changed the category over the last decade, and now it's now necessary for people to do that to compete against me. And they know if I'm going up against a listing appointment, they have to step into my game, right? And that's a game I've been playing for 10 years, so I've mastered it, and they're just learning it, and I beat them time after time. So, for instance, the Golden State Warriors are a championship team here in Northern California. Challenge the basketball team at my team against their team on a basketball game. They will kill us, right? They will dominate us and outscore us, totally make us look like fools. But if I created a new game and changed the category of that game, and I had 10 years to practice and perfect that game, and it was similar to basketball, but it would say completely different rules, championship team, they would not know the game as I know the game, and we would beat them time after time after time after time, regardless of the caliber of champions that they are at that sport. You've changed the game, and now you're forcing them to play that game there in your local market. I suggest you step up and you do it and commit to it and change that category. Know what you're doing through social media. If you're spending any money on self-promotion, I would stop and spend it on the properties that you have listed. If you spend that $1 to self-promote, you're getting one thing back, right? If you spend that dollar to promote your client's home, and if you do a good job, it's going to promote you and it's going to brand you and create that category for you. And if you're doing a really good job, it's also going to attract buyers. So that $1 is going to generate 3 things for you instead of that self-promotion one-on-one, right? So that's one of the advices I would take is I tell agents is quit playing everybody else's game, quit playing the big shots games, figure out a way how to change the game, change the category, go big on it, and perfect it. And at that point, whoever competes against you, you're just gonna eat them alive.
It's a really good takeaway there, Daniel, because it sounds like what you're doing is you're forcing the home seller to ask questions of your competition that they're not necessarily prepared to answer because
they're not ready.
Mastered your craft.
Right? Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's one of the things that I do is I actually, if I know there's other agents behind me, I will leave the seller a list of questions to ask those agents, questions that are tailored to what I do. So then they're sitting there, well, how do you track your leads, Google Analytics? And they're sitting there just dumbfounded.
Right.
Right? So yeah, you just literally give them a list of questions to ask. So.
I do want to go back to something you said a couple of minutes ago, which I think is a really important takeaway for our viewers, which is when you're working leads coming out of Real Agent Pro, give us feedback on how to promote you. Daniel has a unique value proposition that when I was in the trenches, I used to love working Daniel's account because I could go in and I could use, I might be a little rusty because I haven't been on the phone for a year or so, but my basic pitch was, according to the Wall Street Journal, Daniel Del Real is the #1 producing real estate agent in the whole state of California. He sells more houses in a week than most agents sell in an entire year. And the reason I want to get him out to your house is because he has a very unique method of promoting and marketing your home that gets in a lot more traction and a lot more activity than the typical real estate agent. And I think he may be able to succeed where other agents may have failed. And using a variation of that talk track would get me the appointment almost every time. And so I would encourage you, our ISAs get paid when you list houses. They get paid when you sell houses. I would encourage anyone who's watching this webcast to create an open dialogue with their ISAs. Give us pointers on how you want to be promoted. Talk to us about your unique value propositions, because that will allow us to adjust our approach and to really promote you in the best light possible. And so you gave some other really good feedback kind of following up on that, but I wanted to make sure we circle back to that, Daniel, because it's so important. And above and beyond any skill sets or how good an agent is or how good an ISA is, I've found through going through some pretty extensive analytics internally here, the single biggest deciding factor on whether or not an agent gets listings from our program is truly the communication that they have with the ISAs that they're working with. So this is some really good stuff here. Before we wrap up, Daniel, do you have any additional action steps, takeaways, or pointers that you could give to our viewers before we wrap up?
Listen to every single call. And like you said, that's probably one of the most important things. Give you guys some feedback. I know initially, even like the first month, my last name was mispronounced, right? And it's normal. It's like, it's different. So you go in there and I just give constructive feedback. Listen to every single one of those calls. And if you have a suggestion to pitch it a little different, give it. And not only that, whenever somebody does a good job for you, let them know. It goes to somebody. And like, I don't know, I started in a lot of calls myself. It's a very unrewarding job, right? You put it up to bat. Basically, you put somebody up to bat, and then you don't know if something happens after that, right? So you have these successes, but you never really have a follow-up with it. So take some time, and also just if you hear somebody that's doing a great job, send them some kudos, give them a little follow-up, letting them know how that appointment went. I think they'll do well for the ISAs that are calling on your account to really light a fire in them and continue to do what they do, because it's a tough job. That's why they're doing it and you're not.
Great. Well, this has been an excellent webcast here, Daniel, with a lot of good nuggets. We're going to wrap up for today. We're out of time here, but for our viewers, you can check out this video as well as many others on realinsiderpro.net. We shoot these at 2 o'clock Eastern time, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday every week. We'll have a different guest on. It's folks, for the most part, that are converting at a good level on our leads. We'll also periodically get an internal perspective on Mega Insider Pro. But again, check us out, realinsiderpro.net. And Daniel, if you could stay on for just a minute when the webcast ends, I'd like to get a little feedback from you as well.
Great. All right, thanks.